To all the drivers out there delivering holiday cheer across our great country, season's greetings and a huge thank you from the Allen Lund Company.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
It may not feel like it, but the truck parking situation is getting better, probably. On today's show, Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine stops by for another edition of The Parking Zone. We cover a new study that suggests there is more trucking capacity than there was 2 years ago, although there is some fine print to consider. We'll get into that, plus a recent National Coalition on Truck Parking meeting and more. Then we know that just about 12% of professional truck drivers are women. Bringing more gender diversity into the industry will require a number of strategies, including breaking down stigmas and stereotypes that might still exist about trucking and women. That's what Transforce is trying to do through a new campaign. The company's vice president of marketing, Kelly McGurk, tells us how Barbie factors in. And finally, December is shaping up to be a slow month on the spot market. We break down the numbers with DAT's Robert Rouse, but more importantly, get tips for improving profitability amid low freight rates. All that and more coming up over the next hour. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. Before we close out the year, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is expected to release a proposal aimed at ensuring the safe deployment of commercial motor vehicles with automated driving systems. FMCSA originally was scheduled to release a notice of proposed rulemaking on December 29th regarding the safe integration of autonomous trucks. The date on the new regulatory agenda no longer has a specific date, but shows this month and year. In February, FMCSA released a supplemental advance notice of proposed rulemaking about automated driving systems to solicit feedback from the industry. FMCSA received about 180 comments on the notice. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association warned the agency that it shouldn't roll out the technology before it is ready. In addition, OOIDA reminded the agency that autonomous vehicles could drastically change the trucking industry and its workforce. Nearly 2 million Teslas are being recalled in the U.S. after a review of nearly 1,000 crashes. In a letter posted by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Tesla notified NHTSA of a safety recall on its autonomous self-driving software. The recall remedy is for all Tesla models S, X, 3, and Y vehicles equipped with all versions of auto steer. The problem description states that in certain circumstances, when auto steer is engaged, the prominence and scope of the feature's controls may not be sufficient to prevent driver misuse of the SAE Level 2 Advanced Driver Assistance feature. Tesla will release an over-the-air software update free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed on February 10th. Meanwhile, Virginia authorities have determined that a Tesla was operating on its autopilot system and speeding when it crashed into a tractor-trailer last July, killing the Tesla driver. ABC News reports investigators into the crash were able to determine that autopilot was in use on the Tesla by downloading information from the vehicle's event data recorder. The Tesla reportedly was traveling 70 miles per hour on 4-lane US 29, which was 25 miles per hour over the 45 miles per hour speed limit. The speed at impact has not been released, nor whether the driver applied the brakes before impact. The article stated that prior to the crash, the Tesla warned the driver to take control of the car because it had detected something in the way, but neither the car nor the driver stopped in time. Authorities said the tractor-trailer was pulling out onto the highway from a truck stop at the time of the crash. Traffic deaths in the U.S. fell 4.5% in the first 9 months of 2023. According to Reuters, traffic deaths are still above pre-pandemic levels, but lower than the 31,880 deaths reported in the first 9 months of 2022. In written testimony from acting NHTSA Administrator Ann Carlson, she said they are optimistic they're finally seeing a reversal of the record high fatalities seen during the pandemic, but this is not a cause for celebration. A proposal to require electronic IDs on commercial motor vehicles may not be something you need to worry about in the new year. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Fall 2023 Unified Regulatory Agenda, the rulemaking has been moved to the agency's long-term actions, and no movement is expected in the new year. In September of 2022, FMCSA issued an advance notice of proposed rulemaking that considered requiring all CMVs operating in interstate commerce to possess a unique electronic identifier. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association and individual truck drivers quickly opposed the proposal. FMCSA received more than 2,000 comments, with many of them coming from truckers who cited concerns about privacy and government overreach. $645 million will go toward transportation projects in rural areas of the country. The U.S. Department of Transportation announced that the Biden-Harris administration awarded the funding from the Rural Surface Transportation Grant Program. According to a release, the funding will go toward improving the safety and reliability of movement of people and freight, as well as toward improving quality of life for rural residents through investment in critical roads, bridges, and other transportation systems. 18 projects in 18 different states will benefit from this funding. A truck driver is dead after his truck crashed into two other trucks at a toll plaza in northeastern Indiana. AP reports that the 73-year-old driver from Iowa was reportedly pulling a bulk tank trailer on Interstate 80 and 90 when his truck crashed into a box trailer. The truck then rear-ended another semi stopped in line at a different toll booth. The man reportedly died at the scene. Police said his truck was going fast and showed no signs of slowing or braking as it approached the plaza. Investigators suspect the driver may have suffered a medical problem, which could have made him lose control. One of the other drivers sustained minor injuries. The other was not injured. One of the busiest bridges in Rhode Island has closed its westbound lanes. ABC News reports that a critical structural failure was found on the Washington Bridge on I-95. The repair work could take 3 months or more. All westbound lanes will be closed. Rhode Island DOT says it will redirect traffic to 2 lanes on the eastbound side in the next 2 to 3 weeks. According to the article, the bridge carries close to 100,000 vehicles every day. And finally, the annual tradition of placing wreaths on graves of the fallen continues. This year, a senior OOIDA member has the opportunity to participate in wreaths across America. This weekend, Lamar Buckwalter will be hauling wreaths across Pennsylvania and delivering them to grave sites of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. He recently spoke with us about how the opportunity came about.
The lady that actually does all my print work was talking to me about it a little bit. And I'm like, well, I've heard all about it. I've obviously heard about it on the road, seen trucks, seen pictures, all that good stuff. And like, you know what, how cool would it be to actually participate in it? So I followed up with her, and I'm like, well, you're going to need a truck driver to haul your wreaths down here. And she's like, yes, I am. So she pointed me in the right direction. Lo and behold, I got a load, and I got a total of 9 different cemeteries I'm going to be delivering to.
Hauling the wreaths is done voluntarily, but Buckwalter says it's an important thing to do.
I personally feel it's important because for the families left behind, they know their family member is not forgotten. And obviously over the holidays, it hits everybody the hardest because their family member's not with them. And I think it's just a really unique way of remembering that fallen soldier or veteran and let the family know that, hey, we do care about what your family member did do for us.
That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. You may have heard us talk about a new report from Trucker Path that indicates the truck parking situation has gotten a bit better over the past couple years. The stats say they have, but there's some context that needs to be added to get the full picture. Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine joins us after the break for another installment of The Parking Zone. We'll cover that report plus all the latest truck parking news and more, so stick around. Landline Now is back in just a moment.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
A blank space on many maps with the distance between parking spaces seemingly as great as infinity. It is the boundary that separates safety and security from the dangers of the road, the space between electronic signs and a place in which to rest. It is not a dimension of the imagination, but instead the reality faced by truck drivers every single day. It is a place we call the parking zone. Here are your guides for this journey into parking news good and bad, Scott Thompson and Tyson Fisher.
Thanks, Mark. Scott Thompson here. Tyson Fisher there. Tyson, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Doing just great. Thanks for being here. We're going to start with the National Truck Parking Coalition, which held its annual meeting earlier this month. We haven't had a chance to talk to you since it happened. I know that they covered a lot of ground in the, few hours, I guess they were speaking. Just wanted to get your thoughts, I guess, off the top here about the discussions and the presentations and how worthwhile they may have been.
Sure. As you pointed out, there was various, factors and areas of truck parking were discussed. For me, one of the big things that stuck out was funding, just various aspects of funding, including how funding is being used for truck parking, and then also the lack thereof. There was a lot going on there. So kind of to start, there was a mix of stakeholders involved with these talks. Basically, it was lots of transportation officials mixed with stakeholders that included OOIDA, the American Trucking Associations, and the National Association of Truck Stop Operators. So everyone who needed to be there were there. So it was a good mix of people talking about truck parking. And when it comes to funding, one of the things that kind of stuck out was, and this was mentioned by transportation officials and stakeholders, is that there appears to be a lack of education when it comes to the truck parking crisis, and particularly as it pertains to the safety issues related to truck parking. And this is mostly at the local level. I think by now, most, if not all, state DOTs are pretty much aware of how impactful the lack of truck parking is to the safety of all motorists. Mm-hmm. But at the local level, which is where funding becomes really most important, there seems to be, again, just a lack of knowledge about the safety of truck parking. So one of the things that was mentioned was that that state DOTs have, they're in a unique position to communicate that aspect of truck parking to, the district managers of the DOTs, and then down to lower level, again, local transportation officials and city planners. And so this is something that I think nationwide needs to be done. And it looks like a lot of state DOT transportation officials are pretty much on it. In particular, I know Tyler Graham, he's a senior freight planning project manager at the Texas DOT. He mentioned that as well as a California and Georgia transportation official. So I think we're at a point to where that's starting to be communicated, and that can be make a big difference when it comes to creating more truck parking. Yeah. But, it's funny because they mentioned some of the problems when it comes to obtaining funding. And then the whole not in my backyard crowd was actually mentioned, as it should be, because that seems to be a problem. But another thing that that's a barrier to funding is the extremely high cost of land that's needed to be acquired. So when planning truck parking, they not only have to think about where, but how much,
Yeah,
and that
for
could be a big problem. But so those were things were talked about. Another thing that I think that's worth mentioning is that so a lot of states are currently undergoing a truck parking study. I know right now New York is actually looking for truckers to get their input on their truck parking survey. As a matter of fact, you can go to landline.media. Just wrote a story about that.
Okay.
You can get a link. There's a link to take that study or take that survey. Highly recommend if you drive in and out of New York to take that survey because really, when it comes to planning, the planning is only as good as the information received. And so, if few truckers, give input on that, then the information is not going to be good. So, you really need to let these DOTs know. So, there's opportunities there, but. One California official noted that the California did their truck parking study. They completed that in February of last year, and she mentioned that. That she wished that she could say that immediately after that they started opening more truck parking spaces, but that's just not how it works.
It takes time.
There's a big time gap, right, in between the parking study completion and then getting, more parking spaces, and so that needs to be understood. But with that being said, there's plenty of funding available right now for truck parking. There's not dedicated funding, so you are competing with other projects, and I think that's part of the problem.
Right.
But again, this wraps us back around to the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act, which would allocate, $755 million specifically for truck parking, so it eliminates that barrier. And that was discussed a lot, and obviously every transportation official, all the stakeholders, they're on board with that. So a few other quick notes about the truck parking, the coalition meeting. Safety was mentioned in California. This is an incredible stat. Between 2014 and 2018, in California alone, there were more than 1,600 crashes involving a parked truck. So that tells you how big of a problem it is. And then there was technology, how technology is being used with truck parking. And so it is useful. In Texas, they're using that data to communicate parking needs to leadership. So that's being helpful. But so I know truckers are often critical of the truck parking information systems that are out there.
Yep.
And their criticism is not misplaced because a Kentucky transportation official mentioned that their availability information system has been over-reporting parking availability by 25%.
That's not great.
Yeah, so if 20 spots are available, the technology would report 25 is available. So that can cause a problem. And that's just on average. One site was reporting nearly 4 times more than what was available. But then there was another site that was reporting about a quarter of what was available. So
well, that's not helpful.
It is not. So
you're not going to trust that information, and at that point, what's the point of even having it if the information's wrong?
And so back to funding, Kentucky is using. I think they received funding for a grant for about $1 million or more to improve that truck parking information system. So.
Fingers crossed on that one.
Fingers crossed, but that's just one state. We don't know how the information systems are working in other states. This is just one state that submitted, hey, ours is kind of sucks.
It's not working great.
It's not working very well.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it was a very productive conversation, and hopefully, these transportation officials will take that information gleaned and help improve the situation.
Yeah, this is really one of these issues that it's going to take a village. And over the past several years of this coalition meeting, it does seem like there is more collaboration, more communication when it comes to truck parking, and generally more awareness of the issue and what needs to be done to fix it. So that's encouraging. Also encouraging is a survey from Trucker Path that says we are making some progress in terms of addressing the truck parking crisis. They compared stats from 2021 and 2023, and Tyson, they found some encouraging stuff in there.
Yeah, so basically, according to the numbers from Trucker Path, so for example, from the lunchtime hours from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 64% of trucker path users indicated there were many spaces available, compared to only 48% 2 years ago. When it comes to nighttime truck parking, which is really where the problems lie, there's also improvement there. So in November, 38% reported many spaces available, which is up from 17%. So almost double what was being reported there. Yeah. So that it all sounds great, but what we have to do is put that into context. And so right now the freight volumes in general are not good, at least compared to 2021. So it's possible that there are fewer trucks on the road compared to 2021. A lot of data suggests that, for example, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, trucking jobs are down by nearly 26,000 this year, compared to last year where trucking jobs were up 60,000. So the trucking or just the freight landscape in general is much different now than it was 2021. But
much different.
But not to take away from trucker pass data, I mean, there's certainly improvements being made. So it's encouraging at the very least, but I would just take that information with a grain of salt and kind of put it into context, because obviously there is still a big problem.
Yeah, especially when you consider November 2021, we were at the height of the boom, really, and people were making tons of money, and as you point out, much different environment right now. But again, glass half full.
Right.
We're not going the other direction, so that is encouraging. Also encouraging, I guess we'll keep that encouragement train going here.
Sure.
Arizona expanding truck parking capacity along the most traveled interstates there in the state, and this is a sizable investment. They're really tackling this issue.
Right. So we talked about funding and truck parking studies. Arizona, they're past the study phase and they're into just putting more parking spots into the infrastructure. Essentially they want to build more than 800 truck parking spaces in 10 different locations. The big problem locations being Interstate 10, Interstate 40, and Interstate 8. So right now they already have funding for 3 rest areas with more than 300 truck parking spaces, and they're looking for more funding for again hundreds of truck parking spaces. So essentially, right now it's just an idea, and they're getting some input on it, but again, they're using the funding mechanisms that are available, and accordingly, again, more than 800 truck parking spaces, very significant in that corridor in Arizona.
Absolutely, yeah. For people that travel those interstates there in Arizona, that will, hopefully, if this thing does come to pass, will make a huge difference for those folks out there, and hopefully we'll see other states follow suit on that. Speaking of states that have a massive truck parking problem, Florida falls in that category. However, the state there also doing something to address it. They're going to, looks like, invest some money.
Yeah, in Florida, Interstate 4, that corridor, it's a mess
yeah,
when it comes to truck parking. And again, Florida, they are past the study phase. They studied it. They know the problem. Now it's time to invest into truck parking. That's exactly what they're doing. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis recently unveiled his transportation budget, which is more than nearly $16 billion for transportation. But in that budget, he's recommending $25 million to provide truck parking relief along the state highway system. So again, is another example of a state ready to take action. They're past that study phase and they're doing what's next.
Here's the thing, and I don't want to be a negative Nancy here.
Sure.
I just hope that mindset continues. I hope that these states realize that just investing $25 million here and adding a few hundred truck parking spaces, that is great. Don't get me wrong, but that is not going to solve the problem. They need to keep going to make sure that we are, again, attacking this from every side and making sure that the problem truly is solved. We're a long ways away from that, but we're making progress. I do feel comfortable and confident in saying that. Tyson, we appreciate you stopping by as always. An important topic, and you always teach us something. We appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Our thanks to Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. You can check out his coverage of the truck parking crisis online at landline.media and in every issue of the magazine. We've got to pay some bills, but we'll be right back. Landline Now continues in just a moment.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Welcome back to Landline Now. It's no secret that the trucking industry has been making a concerted effort in recent years to get more women into the industry. The Women in Trucking Association has been leading the way all along. Their latest data from the 2023 Women in Trucking Index shows that just about 12% of professional drivers who hold a CDL are women. The numbers are even lower for technicians, about 7.5%. And while women make up a greater percentage of workers in other roles like dispatchers and company leadership, there's clearly a divide that still exists. Bridging it will require a number of strategies, including breaking down any stigmas and stereotypes that might still exist about trucking and women, and introducing the option of a career in trucking to younger generations, which is where this next idea comes in. Transforce, a company that helps connect drivers with jobs, has an online petition going around right now. They're trying to get Mattel to put Barbie into a career in trucking. Kelly McGurk, Vice President of Marketing for Transforce, joins us to talk about the campaign. Tell me about this campaign, because it's an interesting one, and I haven't seen something quite like this, I don't think, before. How did this idea come about? Was it a brainstorming session? Did someone just kind of, utter it and think, oh, that's kind of a good idea? How did it all start?
It actually all started with me working from home and taking a break in my living room. And I was actually getting ready to go see the Barbie film that night. And I'd been watching all of the hype about it. And they did a whole social media campaign where you could make yourself as a Barbie. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And we were preparing for the Women in Trucking event. And then I just started to do some research and started to learn some things like, Barbie had never been in the transportation industry, and women only make up 14% of this workforce. And Barbie actually was like a woman pioneer for a lot of industries and a lot of roles. Times Magazine issued an article, or actually an entire issue about her, and it was showcasing her as a physician when women only made up 5% of that workforce. And as I got to thinking about this, I was like, hey, this is really important. And it's also the year of Barbie. Everyone is talking about Barbie. And so it just felt like it made sense. And being a woman in this industry and having female family truck drivers, I think representation matters. And it would be important to see this on the shelves and in the homes of families, everywhere.
Yeah, and I got to say, it surprised me too when I came across the petition to realize that, Barbie's been around for decades, I think back to the 50s maybe even, and has held, as you point out in the petition, more than 200 professions, never a truck driver, never the CEO of a carrier or trucking company or what have you, which kind of surprised me. And that is, just to be clear here, that's the goal, right? You're trying to get Mattel essentially to pay attention to this, right? And make a Barbie who is a truck driver or who works in the industry, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so we're a truck driver staffing and recruiting firm. I'd love to see Barbie be a truck driver, but I really would just love to see more representation of women in this industry. And why not? It's an opportunity for Mattel. We can do diesel technicians, we can do truck drivers, we can do CEOs. There's a lot of roles out there, dispatcher. The transportation industry has a lot of opportunity for career growth. And, it's not necessarily highlighted to women at a young age, to little girls, as an opportunity for them.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting way to look at this. And if you could talk a little bit about that, because if your goal was to be reached and we were to see Barbie in a number of different roles throughout the trucking industry, maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever it may be, what effect do you see that having on girls and young women, especially, who may not have even considered this as a profession, as a career. What's the hope there, I suppose, if they were to see a trucker Barbie?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of research on gender bias and the fact that, the gifts that you give to children kind of influence their thinking about, what's right or wrong for them. So girls might tend to receive things like, when I was a kid, it was like pretty princess and these kind of toys. And of course, girls receive more dolls. So I think, by adapting this doll into this, let's call it non-conventional role, because we're just 14% of the women, making up this industry, it kind of starts to create that exposure that this is acceptable, this is viable, and it creates an idea that you could even consider the industry of supply chain as being a part of your life or being a part of your future. I went to college. I grew up in a small town. I wasn't really clear about what opportunities were available to me. I didn't really know what supply chain was until I got to college. So opening those doors earlier and influencing more people to consider this profession, to consider this industry, especially women, I think it's beneficial for everybody. And we all do better when we have more diverse perspectives in the workforce. So,
yeah.
And I met these women at the Women in Trucking Accelerate event earlier this year, and they were blowing my mind. They were 19 years old, and they were diesel mechanics and working at PepsiCo and traveling the nation. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. And how did you even find out that you loved this? And it wasn't until things like high school. So, why not start earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Obviously, the petition is the first step in all of this, I suppose. A lot of steps would have to follow before this became a reality. Mattel obviously would have a big hand in this. Have you had any outreach with them by chance and kind of raise this idea to them, or are we not quite at that point yet?
Yeah, we're not quite at that point yet. I think first is really gathering the signatures on our petition and getting that ready to send over to them. And so we start to hope opening those doors from now forward, and we will be filing the petition early next year. And yeah, we hope to start having conversations with them and really making this a thing.
And it's pretty simple, right? If anybody out there is interested in signing on to this, you're looking for, I think it's 1,000 signatures right now. And I guess that may change, if this thing kind of takes off. But is that pretty much where we stand right now? You're just looking for people to sign up on the petition, on the change.org website, right?
Yes, and you can actually just go to transforce.com/Barbie, and it's your name, where you live, and just press submit. It's not a marketing tool. It's just a petition. So you can come in and sign it, transforce.com/Barbie.
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, you've got people who are explaining their reasons for signing this petition on there. One person mentioned that their sister's a truck driver, kind of also other people putting out the message that you did, that this is really a great chance to show girls, show younger people that there's opportunities out there like this for them. I imagine you've been getting pretty positive feedback from people outside of the petition itself, just on this idea alone. What kind of things are you hearing?
Just a lot of excitement. There's been a lot of TikTok videos and women truck drivers saying, like, I have tried this. I've sent emails to Mattel. Like, I want to see Barbie as a truck driver. And everyone also is asking us, will you keep us updated? We want to know. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive. A lot of feedback, too, about, truck stops and going into truck stops. And there really being like a very male-centric selection of things that you can buy for your children. And so just general excitement from the industry and some also people outside of the industry who, I always say, like, we're all 6 degrees of separation from a truck driver, whether it's someone in your family or a close friend. Like, we're all a part of this industry. And so, yeah, it's been very, very well received. It's a lot of fun, in addition to the fact that there's a strong message behind it. we had a great booth at the Women in Trucking event. You could come and snap your picture, and it was this Barbie is a woman in trucking. So people have been really engaged with it. And yeah, it's been a really overwhelmingly positive response.
Yeah, it's a great idea. For anybody listening to this, they're, maybe they're interested in doing this and lending their support. What message do you have for them?
Yeah, come sign our petition, transforce.com/Barbie. If you want to contribute in other ways, you can always reach out to me. My name's Kelly McGurk. I'm on LinkedIn. I work for Transforce, and we're always happy to collaborate with other providers in this space to make something happen.
You need to get Margot Robbie on board is what we need to do, because I think that would be your ticket right there.
What a dream. If anyone knows her,
Yeah, reach out. Let us know, for sure. Absolutely. Our thanks to Kelly McGurk of Transforce for her time and for spearheading this campaign. The petition on change.org seeks 1,000 signatures, and at last check, about 700 people had signed up. You can check it out for yourself by going to change.org and searching Truck Driver Barbie. We've also got a link at landline.media. Find that by clicking the Landline Now logo at the top right of the page. As for the greater issue of getting more women into the industry, the Women in Trucking Association's 2023 WIT Index is out now, and the survey for the 2024 WIT Index is now open. The more participation there is, the better picture we'll have when it comes to gender diversity data in the industry. You can find that at womenintrucking.org. We've got to take a short break, but please do stick around, not for a commercial break, not yet at least, but for a little holiday cheer.
Don't rest ye weary trucking folks, you must keep on your way. Truck stops are full and rest stops too, there's no place you can stay. Just slug some Joe, you're good to go, so says the ATA. Oh, driving, it used to be a joy, it was a joy. Oh, driving, it used to be a joy.
No room for you or your truck to on exit ramps today. The parking lot at Shippers Docks is no place you can stay. Try a Walmart parking lot, you will get towed away.
Oh, driving, it used to be a joy, it was a joy. Oh, driving, it used to be a joy. 10 hours rest makes you the best, says FMCSA. It's up to you to find a spot where you don't have to pay. Just get it done or soon enough a ticket you will pay. Oh, driving, it used to be a joy, it was a joy. Oh, driving, it used to be a joy. Oh, driving no longer is a joy. The truck, it is a Kenworth with a big wreath on the front and some chicken lights for accent, and that's all the Christmas stuff. I'm hauling Christmas presents, and I hope I won't be late. I am stacked on up to full cube with this special Yuletide freight.
Yes, I love to be a trucker at this special time of year. It's my job to bring the presents that our children hold so dear. On a sleigh with 18 wheels, as the Santa I do roam. I just hope I'm done by Christmas, and this truck will take me home.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive, Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. There are a number of critical questions you need to answer in order to run a successful trucking business. Among the most important of those questions are, where's the freight going to be and how much is it going to pay? Today, Landline Now senior correspondent Ashley Blackford will bring us answers to both of those important questions with a look at this week's freight markets with the folks from DAT. Here's Ashley now with the report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello once again to Robert Rouse at DAT. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing great, Ashley. Thanks for asking.
How did the spot market perform last week?
Yeah, last week was kind of a bummer. Last week we saw the number of loads decrease down to 868,000. One of the rare times it's gone under a million over the last year. This was a big drop after the strong week following Thanksgiving. Seems like that was most likely the peak shipping week in the spot market for the entire month of December. The rest of December will most likely be similarly pretty slow until we roll into 2024. But when we look at trucks on the DAT load board, they actually increased by about 6% up to 357,000 trucks. That's really what we would expect with a lower load volume. We still have a pretty strong truck market out there. Looking at the overall strength of the spot market last week, we saw loaded truck ratios decrease across all three equipment types. With last week seemingly being the peak for December, we would not expect much movement in the market over the next few weeks, as it just kind of is a slow month. When we look at this week's reefer loaded truck ratio, just one example of the market, after doubling the week after Thanksgiving, load post volumes actually decreased by 38% week over week, erasing most of the prior week's gains. And according to the USDA, the reefer spot market is influenced by lower fall produce volumes, mainly in California, where volumes were 39% lower compared to 2022. But carrier equipment posts increased by 6% week over week, resulting in last week's reefer loaded truck ratio decreasing to 2.11. So something to look at there. Lastly, looking at the national benchmark broker-to-carrier spot rates without fuel, they also decreased across all three equipment types last week. The largest drop was for reefers. They decreased by about 5 cents per mile, down to $1.94 per mile. This is where rates were at the start of November, so kind of getting back to that. Flatbed line haul rates averaged about $1.90 per mile, following last week's 2 cent per mile decrease. And then lastly, with dry van, line haul rates followed seasonal patterns, decreased just by about a penny last week, down to $1.66 per mile. So kind of starting to slow down a little bit in all three equipment types.
What market should carriers look at when they are on the West Coast?
Yeah, most people might think markets like LA, Portland, or Seattle. However, a super important market is actually Stockton, California. Stockton is located in the San Joaquin County. It's near Silicon Valley in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. Stockton is located south of Sacramento and east of San Francisco, placing it right in the middle of the state. This central location allows for distribution down to Los Angeles or down all the way down to San Diego, and then up to Pacific Northwest or to major metropolitan areas east of California within 1 day over the road. Stockton is part of California's larger Central Valley, one of the most productive agricultural regions of the United States. In 2020 alone, the value of the country's agriculture industry is $3 billion, which is pretty outstanding. Its transportation network includes interstate highways, rail, and even a deep water port to handle intermodal shipping, an airport that can accommodate extended operation cargo aircraft. So they really have it all. According to Dr. Jeffrey Michael of the Center of Business Policy Research at the University of the Pacific, San Joaquin County is uniquely positioned as a logistics hub. It is a fast-growing county with relatively inexpensive real estate and is geographic center of the Northern California megaregion, a 21-county area with a population over 12.6 million people. There's 3 interstate highways that run through the county. Interstate 5 is the major north and south interstate on the West Coast. In addition, I-205 and I-580 and several other major California highways also run through the county as well. The Port of Stockton imports and exports over 4 million tons annually and trades with more than 55 countries around the world. Located on the Stockton Deepwater Shipping Channel, The port is tied to global economy as an official U.S. port of entry. The 4,000-acre port offers access to I-5 railways and also offers more than 7.5 million square feet of warehousing for dry and liquid bulk material. The Port of Stockton is the fourth busiest port in all of California. BNSF Railway and Union Pacific operate extensive intermodal rail facilities for global distribution of goods in the county. In addition to the county has nearly 9 million square feet of warehouse and distribution space. The average industrial rental rate within the San Joaquin Valley is currently much lower than the greater Los Angeles or the Inland Empire markets, making Stockton a true cost-saving alternative for people. Recently, Walmart announced that it plans to open its fifth next-generation fulfillment center in Stockton in 2026. The 900,000 square foot facility will enable the retailer to fulfill online orders throughout the West Coast with greater speed and efficiency. Dean Croak, which is one of our analysts here at DAT, always talks about the 338-mile run from Los Angeles to Stockton is one of the highest freight volume lanes in the entire country. So what type of freight moves in and out of Stockton? It's a pretty long list. I narrowed it down a little bit, but things like rice, coal, iron, steel, palm oil, and cement are kind of the top pieces that are coming out of that region. Stockton's economy is largely based on freight, shipping, and logistics services, make it one of the most important ports on the West Coast. With its strategic location and robust freight infrastructure, Stockton is a critical hub for shipping goods in the region.
With freight rates still at the lower end, what tips can you give to drivers to improve profitability?
Yeah, unfortunately, the current market is unsustainable for many small carriers, particularly those that entered the market at its peak. Low rates and high costs spell trouble for any business in any industry, but with the traditional tight margins associated with the operating as a motor carrier business, with the current client has many trucking companies operating on a razor's edge. While it's likely we're at near the bottom of the current freight market cycle, carriers are still operating in survival mode. To get the light at the end of the tunnel, the focus should be on cost controls and operating efficiencies. The biggest expense is diesel fuel. While larger carriers enjoy some protections thanks to fuel surcharge programs that share some of the cost burden with the shipper customers, small carriers and owner-operators doing business in the spot market negotiate all-in rates on a transactional basis. This leaves them more exposed to spikes in diesel. Tackling fuel costs is a twofold process. The first is to address the expense at the front end, such as enrolling in fuel card programs that provide discounts at the pump. The second is to make those fuel dollars stretch. That includes improving driver habits like maintaining fuel-efficient speeds, eliminating idling, route optimizations, and even reducing deadhead miles. A deeper understanding of operating costs will prove critical for carriers in 2024. It will also provide information regarding where to make strategic investments, such as preventative maintenance and technology that increase efficiency while expanding opportunity. For example, the Profit Estimator tool in the DAT1 app allows carriers to find loads tailored to their business based on their operating costs, so they can choose freight loads that actually yield the best return for their specific business and their specific cost. Greater success also requires a broader understanding of the macroeconomic and regulatory factors that drive demand. Tools like the Market Condition Map and DAT1 give a quick view of the truckload supply and demand, while carriers can educate themselves through information found on the DAT website, as well as numerous other online outlets as well. Armed with this information, carriers can also venture into new markets and align with strategic partners to really help them come out of the down market with a more resilient business that can thrive in any portion of the freight cycle.
If our listeners want more information, where can they go for that?
Yeah, you can get the latest rate information at dat.com/trendlines or look for the weekly market updates on the DAT blog. They're published every Wednesday.
All right. Robert, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.
That was Robert Rouse with DAT. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
Chrome, and I am
a
professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.